Alrighty, everybody, welcome into another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, part of the Full Press Coverage Network. What is going on, everybody? It is Alec and Dayton here today. Dayton, what was a very disappointing Falcons game by the Saints, final 27-25, seemingly is not the biggest news today, believe it or not. We will go over everything with the Falcons and Saints game that happened this past Sunday, and we will dive into some Odell Beckham Jr. talk. We're recording right now at 3:12 p.m. About 6 minutes ago, Rappaport and Schefter came out saying he had cleared waivers. Nobody claimed him. He is officially a free agent for the first time in his career. So we will dive into all the possibilities of how likely it is he will come to this team, how much of an immediate impact he can make for the Saints. And yeah, it'll be lots of fun with Dayton. Before we get to all this talk, how are you doing today?
Well, I am all for procrastinating this Falcons-Saints game recap talk for as long as possible and instead discuss Odell Beckham Jr. and the possibility of him joining this team, or what might happen with him now that he's officially cleared of waivers. Because, man, what an ugly loss. I mean, obviously we're going to dive deeper into it later, but man, all week Saints fans were, and obviously it's hate week, Falcons hate week, and you got to talk that smack. But man, do we look like a lot of fools now that the Falcons, who every other year it seems like they find a way to just shock us lately since they've been such a poor team, and this is one of just shot right to the heart after a great week last week. That's the Saints MO. So I'm all for talking about OBJ before we dive into that ugly loss. But other than that, I'm doing fantastic. It's good to be back. Good to have the original two hosts of the show back. Definitely missing Matt and Mason and all of them, but excited to be back talking with you and recapping the game and some important NFL news. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think important is a understatement for the news today. Of course, I'm sure we've all been following the latest rumors on Odell Beckham Jr. It looked like before today, the two teams that were going to be in the race for Odell were going to be the Saints and the Patriots. That has now changed. As of this morning, it was the Seahawks. It looked like they were going to come in here. Pete Carroll gave a very, a little tease yesterday at his press conference with the media, and then about an hour ago, Jordan Schultz came out with a tweet that Odell prioritized the Packers as his number one destination as soon as he clears waivers. So, look, there's been a lot of teams in the mix for Odell Beckham Jr., as we know, and in my personal opinion, I know what went down in Cleveland. I think despite that, I think Odell's still a guy who can contribute at a very high level. He could still play at a very high level in the right offense with the right system, and obviously with the right quarterback and offensive-minded coach or coordinator to feed him. So look, this is going to be a very busy week, until we figure out what's going to happen with Odell. Josina Anderson came out and tweeted basically that Odell is going to take his time assessing these teams and pick the best situation for himself. So it looks like we're going to have anything immediately coming out where he's going to visit and all that stuff and all the likelihood. So we'll see. Midday, before we get into the specifics of the Saints and Odell, what are just your general thoughts on this whole situation now that Odell is going to be a free agent for the first time in his career?
Well, Alec, you don't have to sugarcoat it or beat around the bush or anything like that. Odell Beckham Jr. is still an extremely productive and talented wide receiver in this league.
Yep.
He could go to a majority of the teams in this league and succeed like we saw he did in his prime for the New York Giants. His issue that he had in Cleveland, first off, it started off a little bit interesting for Odell Beckham Jr. due to the trade out of from the Giants after signing an extension, which is a very interesting situation to start with. But he gets into Cleveland, never quite finds his footing. Him and Baker Mayfield never quite developed the chemistry. But and of course injuries have played a big factor. But Odell Beckham Jr. has bounced back from a major injury, and really looks like a fluid athlete like he did before. And the thing with Odell Beckham Jr. and his struggles there in Cleveland, a Browns fan who tried to. I think that this was it was supposed to be more of a dig at Odell Beckham Jr. and a defense of Baker Mayfield, but I think is quite the opposite. But he summed it up very nicely because if you watch tape of Odell Beckham Jr. there in Cleveland, he runs very well routes.
He's getting open.
He's a big body guy. Obviously, we've seen the video that his father posted on Instagram of all the misses that Baker Mayfield has. But if you watch just tape of games throughout, you take the good and the bad and whatever you want, you can clearly see that Odell Beckham Jr. can win battles. He can get open, run crisp routes. This Browns fan brings up the point that Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins, who are the two top targets for Baker Mayfield in terms of wide receivers there, until OBJ left, they run more, I guess what you would say, technically correct routes because they're not as great of athletes as OBJ, and OBJ tends to use his athleticism, his lengthy body to win advantages against cornerbacks and safeties. Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins don't have that, so Baker Mayfield is a lot more comfortable throwing to those guys because their routes are a little bit more technically run. They're able to come to stops and find zone coverages a little bit more to Baker Mayfield's comfort. Whether that is better than Odell Beckham Jr., I don't think that's the case. It's just different, and it's what Baker Mayfield is used to. That's where the struggles come from with OBJ and Baker there. So as long as OBJ is able to find a quarterback, which a majority of teams have quarterbacks who don't need a technically sound receiver to properly throw the ball to, they're going to be fine. A lot of quarterbacks actually prefer players of OBJ's tandem with the talent that he has added with he's a big receiver, lengthy body. He uses it to his advantage. He's got high football IQ. He can run routes pretty well, and he's shifty. So no matter what team he ends up going to, it's going to drastically improve them. And we talked about this right before the show. The 4 teams really connected to him that we've been seeing through the rumors: the Packers, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and of course our Saints. Those are the main 4 teams that he's been rumored or connected to. The Jordan Schultz report talks about the Packers being his number 1 priority. I'm actually buying into that quite a bit, even though it is a little bit surprising. But my overall thoughts on the situation is no matter where OBJ goes, that team will get better, even if he does go to Seattle. Because, look, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are both great receivers. OBJ brings to the table stuff that they both bring and then stuff that neither of them bring. It would be an improvement to that receiving core. And I think Russell Wilson absolutely loved OBJ. He's never quite had a receiver like him. But, I think Metcalf is really the closest thing that he's had to OBJ due to the size. But OBJ is a better route runner. He's a little bit more shifty. He may be considered a wide receiver 3 if he goes to Seattle, but I still think it would be an improvement for that team overall. The problem is they're going to need to make a big push for the playoffs. So, is OBJ going to – he obviously wants to go to a contender. I think that's obvious even without the Adam Schefter report. Mm-hmm. So does he consider Seattle a contender? Does he consider New England contenders? I don't know. And if he doesn't, then that leaves the Packers and the Saints on the table. Both of them are clear-cut contenders. Saints, that might be me being a little bit biased for the Saints saying that they're clear-cut contenders after the performance, but they're a great team. They're a really good team. We have a really good team. We lost on Sunday, of course, but this is still a really solid team, and Simeon can throw the ball, man. Simeon can throw the ball. So can Taysom Hill. We saw him getting rhythm on Sunday. So, I think the appeal is still there for OBJ. Now, the Saints will have to make cap room. The Seahawks have the cap room. The Patriots will only need to clear a little bit to make it. I think the Packers would need to clear. I can't remember if the Packers are in that $7.5 million threshold that you need. But, either way, I think no matter where he goes, OBJ is going to make a good impact. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting how this turns out. Let's focus on the Saints here real quick. Obviously, we have a need for a wide receiver 1, especially with the news of Michael Thomas being done for the year last week. And I think Sunday was pretty. Sunday was pretty apparent, right? I think all the drops the receivers had, the lack of separation. It's a real problem in New Orleans right now, and I think ultimately, at least to me, I think this will be the downfall. This will be the downfall of this team, whether they make the postseason or not. It's the lack of talent at the skill of receiver at the receiver and the tight end position for that matter. I think if Odell does come here, he's going to get targets. He's going to get fed. Sean Payton will do absolutely what OBJ does best and utilize it to his advantage. and get him involved in this offense, and he would be wide receiver 1 for this season for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna because I mean, like you mentioned, Trevor Siemian was putting dimes. Siemian was putting dimes where he needed to. He was getting hit as he threw the ball, but he was still putting the ball right where it had to be, where only his guy could get it. And the problem was Trotman had a couple big drops. Stills had a drop. Callaway had a drop.
Yeah, just about everybody had a drop.
Everybody.
It seemed.
Yeah, everybody was dropping balls left and right. I mean, if you're going to be a consistent and a team that's looking to make a run of the postseason, you can't do that in the playoffs. You can't go up, assuming we're going to be a wildcard team, you can't go up to Dallas or up to Arizona or up to Green Bay or LA or Tampa. Because here's the difference between the Saints and all those other teams. The Saints may have a better defense, which is going to be the focal point of this team. We know that's the identity. Kyler Murray that offense can put up points. The Cowboys can put up points. The Packers can put up points. The Buccaneers can put up points. The Rams can put up points. I am not confident whatsoever in this team putting up more than 28 a week. 21 a week at times, it feels like. So Odell coming here right away would fix an immediate need for this team. They give you a big boost going into the second half of the season where you're playing a lot more tougher teams, and you're gonna have to put up points against you. We got Buffalo, we have Dallas, we have Tampa again in the second half of the season. So I think you're gonna have to put up points to be competitive in these games. And Odell coming here would fix an immediate need at the receiver position, talent, skill, ability to get open, to catch a whatever you want to say, he'll come and fix it right away.
Right.
So the only knack is quarterback, right? I think you look at Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, you know what you got there. Seattle, like you mentioned, Russell Wilson, you know what you got there. Even in New England, Mac Jones has looked very good for a rookie quarterback, and you could say that's all Belichick and McDaniels, but nonetheless, he's putting the ball where he needs to be. He's being efficient and protective with the football. So
now the question, I think, becomes, because I agree with all those points. All those points are great. And when you consider the teams that he's choosing, you also have to factor in, is Odell Beckham Jr. going to sign a long-term contract, or is he going to pull what we see happen somewhat often, not so much in the NFL, but it does happen with the veterans. This is a unique situation, of course, but somebody of his caliber, is he going to sign a one-year deal in hopes of getting, maybe signing with a contender this year and then hitting the free agency market next offseason and hoping for a full fat contract with another team or the same team? Let him decide. Because if he wants to sign with the Packers, it's not exactly a smart idea to sign a long-term deal with that team, considering Aaron Rodgers, the possibility that he's not going to be the quarterback for that team after this year. All signs are pointing for Rodgers to not be quarterback of the Green Bay Packers after the season.
Same with Seattle.
You go to same with Seattle. It's right, exactly. We obviously know about those Russell Wilson rumors with him, being naming teams where he would want to go, but not officially asking for a trade. Very, very also a unique situation there. And then you look at the Patriots, you know that they're going to have Mac Jones, quarterback of the future. As long as he is healthy, he is the quarterback for that team. So that's a constant right there. Bill Belichick is very influencing, I think, for somebody like OBJ to learn under. But does he want to go play for New England long term? He's not going to sign a one-year deal with that team because they're even adding him doesn't boost them into, quote, Super Bowl contenders.
And look at the AFC. And look at the AFC.
Yeah.
I believe 11 of the how many teams are the AFC?
16.
60. I think 11 of the 16 teams all have winning records right now.
Yes.
So it's competitive for the wild card.
9-1 against NFC teams this last week. So AFC is just absolutely dominating right now. They're looking really good. The AFC West itself, all teams are above 500. That's pretty incredible. That doesn't happen too often at this point in the season. So, it's very competitive. Is OBJ going to be attracted to that? You look at the Saints. They have a little bit of everything that those teams have. Attractiveness for OBJ. Of course, he's from Baton Rouge. He's from Louisiana. He knows the area. His family's here. He grew up a Cowboys fan. He didn't grow up a Saints fan, but this is still home to him, still near to his family. So that's a big factor. Quarterback uncertainty. Yes, Simeon has been looking good, but is Simeon going to be with the Saints after this season? And even then, is Simeon good enough in OBJ's eyes to sign a 1-year deal with this team and then, decide after that? I don't know if he really is, but obviously you got Kamara there, Mark Ingram, adding OBJ, obviously he becomes wide receiver number 1. Demario Davis, Quan Alexander, who has been rumored to be influencing and recruiting OBJ over to the Saints.
Shout out to Dylan Sanders.
Shout out to Dilly Dilly.
Yep, Dilly Dilly with that, yep.
With the blue check. Yeah, we love Dylan.
Yep.
And, I just think New Orleans is a very attractive place, but you're right. Quarterback is such an important thing for teams, period, and for this decision with Odell Beckham Jr. that Simeon may not cut it, and the uncertainty surrounding the entire situation may not cut it either. If Winston doesn't tear his ACL, I guarantee you OBJ is already signing with the Saints right now. Like, they would have already made the roster move and made it, but
I agree.
Jameis Winston is not going to be able to play until, at the earliest, probably around this time next year. Unless he has a miraculous recovery. He not only tore his ACL, he had other ligament damage. So, that takes a little bit longer to recover from.
Yeah.
I think OBJ is obviously going to know that. You mentioned the Josina Anderson report. Those are the types of things that he's going to be factoring in while he's taking his time to make this decision that she mentioned in her tweet. And he's going to be looking over this. Him and his father, of course, and his family, his team, everybody's going to be laying everything on the table and going over step by step. I don't know exactly how conversations go with the recruitment process at this point in the season because, like I said, this is a unique situation with the big free agent on the market in the middle of the season. It's not just some veteran that you're going to be signing who's been waiting to be picked up by a team. This is a brand new free agent, 29 years old, one of the better wide receivers in the NFL when he's in his prime, can impact a team right away. So it's going to be interesting to see how these conversations with these teams go. But I wouldn't and also would love to be in Odell Beckham Jr.'s shoes right now because, number one, this is a tough decision you are making your future. And also, you just have so many options to choose from. The length of the contract, obviously the amount that teams are going to be willing to offer. How big of a factor is that for OBJ money? Is he, obviously, I think he's going to factor contender over money, but is there a certain price point where he just signs with the team, a la Golden Tate with the Giants a couple of years ago? They threw so much money at him that he didn't even bother signing with a true contender to win a Super Bowl ring. So it's going to be interesting. If I had to say it, again, this is 4:30 Eastern time. It's about a half hour after OBJ is cleared waivers. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my money that OBJ signs with the Green Bay Packers. That's what I'm saying right now. OBJ signing with the Green Bay Packers. That is my gut feeling, and according to all the reports, I just feel like that is what's going to happen. Now, I think the Saints are going to be the runner-up right there. And then I don't know. I don't know how much he's going to value the Seahawks, though.
See, here's what I think.
The Seahawks coming up and Carroll kind of hinting at all that stuff. They're obviously going to be really in for him, and they have the money, too. That's also the thing. Who are the Saints going to get rid of or do? Restructure possibly. I don't know how that's going to work to get OBJ on the team. Oh, I guess because they would obviously have to sign him there. He's not going to take a vet minimum deal. He's going to want quite a bit of money. So it's how much are you going to be able to give him? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and here's what I think about the NFC. Compared to the Patriots are the one team in the AFC that are kind of in the mix. But here's what I think about that. You look at the NFC standings right now, right? So as it stands right now, it's Arizona, Green Bay, Tampa, Dallas, LA, New Orleans, right?
Yep.
Atlanta, Carolina, Minnesota, Seattle. To me, I take New England out right away because the NFC, the competition is so much weaker in the NFC right now compared to the AFC. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 teams in the AFC right now with the losing record. Everybody else is above 500. So that's an ultra competitive conference right now. So where the NFC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 teams with a record of below 500.
Wow.
And including Seattle. And here's the thing about Seattle, right?
Yeah.
You play in the NFC West already, right? That's already tough as it is. But then this is where it gets tricky for the Seahawks, right? Let's say hypothetically at the end of the year they're in it, right? They're in the mix. Well,
which they could be.
They
They
could
could
be.
be at this rate. At this rate, they could be.
And here's the thing about that: if you look at the records, if they end up tying with the Vikings or the Saints, they're out because of the head-to-head
Yep.
losses. So
Yep.
So I mean, that's just the thing about Seattle. Seattle too doesn't make a lot of sense. OBJ wants the targets, but with DK Metcalf, with Russell Wilson, with Tyler Lockett, I mean, Seattle doesn't make a lot of sense, and
Right.
that leaves Green Bay and New Orleans. And obviously, with Green Bay, you have Aaron Rodgers, you have Devontae Adams, but like you said, if you're Green Bay, especially after what's gone on this year. How confident are you that Aaron's going to be back next year?
Exactly.
Like, how could you, if Odell goes to meet with the Packers, right? If he flies out to Lambeau, meets with them, how confident can you sell Odell on the idea that, look, Aaron's going to be here next year? And here's the thing. Here's the other thing. I don't want to get into the whole, vax, anti-vax conversation on this episode, but if you're Aaron, well, actually, I think technically he doesn't have to get tested for like 90 days, something like that. Now, I believe that's the.
I mean, he can't be cleared until Saturday. He has to test negative on Saturday, and then that's the earliest he can be cleared. So he has to be negative Saturday, and then he can play.
But from there on out, I believe he's not subject to being tested if you're an unvaxxed player in the NFL. So it's weird. But all I'm saying is, if you're Odell, can you count on Aaron being there? Game in and game out.
Right.
That's another thing you got to look at. So it's tough, and the Saints are going to have to throw a hell of a pitch to get Odell down here, I think, because Green Bay has the quarterback, and it's just going to be very, very interesting.
And that's why I'll play, and I've been kind of playing devil's advocate this episode in terms, for two Saints fans, and it's, you're right. The pitch for the Packers is going to be a little weak. The pitch for the Patriots and Seahawks are going to have holes in them. But the pitch for the Saints is not going to be too much better than any of those teams because of our quarterback situation, because of the financial situation our team finds themselves in year in and year out. And obviously we've been able to dig ourselves out of holes. But if you're trying to land a marquee player like this who is going to command a big payday, regardless of where he goes, then it's going to be tough to find the money to do that, especially when you don't even have more than $2 million currently to spend on players. So the pitch for the Saints is going to have their holes in them, and also for quarterback of the future as well. What are they going to tell OBJ? Hey, we have plans of drafting quarterback in the first round. So you're going to have to be playing with a rookie quarterback for a while. Oh, hey, we have plans on signing a free agent quarterback next year with, the no money that we actually have right now. So who knows? And we're giving you more money. So we're going to have less money to sign a quarterback. What is the pitch going to be like for the Saints? It's going to be very interesting. Now, that's why I'm thinking it's possible that OBJ does sign a one-year deal. If he does sign a one-year deal, it would make total sense to sign
and then you sell him, and then you sell him on. Look, next year, Mike Thomas will be back healthy. Right. We'll have Winston or Phil Blank for quarterback back, and you sell them on this locker room and the culture, because I think that's the thing about this locker room and culture.
The culture, yes.
I mean, look, when Dez Bryant came here, back in 2018, Dez was here for 2 days towards Achilles in practice, and then already you saw the team embrace Dez Bryant. You saw them throwing up the X's in that game against the Bengals. You saw that. That's a locker room where if you're there, they're there for you. So if you could sell Odell on all that look, we'll have a running mate for you next year, Michael Thomas. We'll have Winston back at quarterback, or we'll draft, who knows, trade for Russell Wilson, who knows. But you sell him on this now, and he sees what this team can do with Mike Thomas back healthy, with another quarterback potentially. Nothing against Simeon, but that's just the way it is. Then maybe you sell him on that. Because I just got to think, if you're the Packers, if you're going to go, and I just don't understand what the pitch is. I mean, Aaron's here, but
yeah, and that's why I'm fully convinced OBJ is preparing to sign a one-year contract with the Green Bay Packers, because I don't see a world where Aaron Rodgers, unless something major gets patched up during the season, and possibly, I mean, the Packers winning the Super Bowl could very well fix a lot of issues, but I just don't see Aaron Rodgers getting over the big hump and the disagreements he's had with that front office there in Green Bay and signing with them. He loves Matt LaFleur now, though. They get along really well, kind of. Right. He loves his team. He enjoys being a Packer, but he seems very much over it and very much willing to move on. So I think that is an instant red flag for OBJ to sign a long-term deal. But if he signs the one-year deal, Packers, I mean, and it's not like they necessarily need him to really get over that hump. I mean, I don't know how much OBJ really moves that needle for the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers, we've seen he get it done with just about any receiver, as long as he has a star there. You know, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Devontae Adams now. But Devontae Adams plus OBJ plus all the other weapons they have, OBJ will obviously pick up a lot of production and I'm not really comparing him to the tight end, but I'm just saying since they lost Robert Tonyan, OBJ is going to be able to pick up some slack for them, so that'll be a help right away. But all my gut's telling me 1-year deal. You're making fantastic points as to why he really should sign with the Saints, especially the culture part. And DeMario Davis better be in on that recruiting pitch, because that's the guy I want at the front line. Oh, yeah, Quan's already been talking to him, though. Yeah. I mean, Quan clearly, I think they were teammates. You know, they've been in the NFL for just about the same time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were drafted 1 year apart, so which is pretty awesome. So I mean, but my gut's telling me 1-year deal with the Packers. So that's the last thing I'll say about it. I want him to come to New Orleans, and he will definitely be wide receiver 1 for this year, and wide receiver 1A, 1B with MT next year. Mm-hmm. But I don't see a feasible way that they're able to pull OBJ from at least Green Bay, and I don't know about New England. You made good points about New England too with the AFC record, but
it's stacked right
they
now.
just have a big win over the Panthers. So, I mean, they're in the thick of things over there in the AFC.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. Of course, time is now 3:38 Central Time. No real updates yet, so we will just wait and see what happens with this game, or with Odell Beckham Jr., my bad. Now, let's recap this game a little bit here, Dayton. We talked about it a little earlier. We kind of teased it with the Odell talk that, obviously the Saints started out rough. They had, I believe, 7 drops in the first half. Really, Simeon was putting them all right where it had to be for these guys. They just could not come up with the catches. As you mentioned, Taysom Hill got to a nice stride late in the game, playing some quarterback. So, really quick, what were just some of your thoughts watching this Falcons game on Sunday?
I mean, I didn't watch the game live. I'll preface that. Then I ended up watching the recap and, of course, watching the highlights so I could see, the most important parts again. This team offensively, with the loss of Jameis Winston and, of course, with no Michael Thomas there, this team on offense has no identity outside of give the ball to Kamara. Mm-hmm. Teams are going to catch on to that, and it's going to be troublesome. Now, I credit Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael for continuing to trust Trevor Siemian with throwing the ball, because he was putting it on a dime. He was putting it where it needed to be a majority of the game. But the run game was just kind of getting so much more traction than the pass game. I would have loved more run. Obviously, after first half, I wasn't too overly disappointed with the team. I mean, it was a big battle defensively, and you got to give credit to the Falcons for running very nice blanket coverages there on the Saints. But that third quarter, I mean, come on. I mean, and you mentioned Taysom Hill. My biggest problem with this game is taking Taysom Hill out like that and then putting Simeon. Obviously, that was a terrible rep by Armstead for that sack fumble to happen. But still, it was keep Taysom Hill in that game. He's probably going to score a touchdown 2 or 3 plays later. And also, you just had him perform 2 really nice passes, which teams weren't really expecting. Why not run a run play with Taysom Hill now? Why not mix it up a little bit? Or Ingram, do something. Why put Simeon right back in and then, run? That was an empty backfield, too. I mean, the team is going to know that you're going to pass the ball. Obviously, Simeon was doing really good. It seemed like the receivers, with all the drops they were having, it seemed like they were so surprised that Simeon was throwing the ball so well and exactly where it needed to be. They were just so shocked, and they couldn't hold on to the ball. There was really no excuses for that. The Saints were able to spread it around really well. 7 different receivers. Everybody outside of Kenny Stills had at least 3 receptions as well out of the receivers that caught balls. Stills with the touchdown, obviously with a really bad drop. Drummond had a redemption catch kind of towards the end of the game, but I think the kicker for this game, outside of the defense just not holding their own when come on. Again, credit to the Falcons for kind of executing these plays, but that Matt Ryan touchdown run, bad. The Adebo play towards the end with Cordero Patterson, who had just absolutely turned his career up another tick at his age. No safety help there. Dennis Allen goes from being a hero one week to an absolute disappointment the next week, and we wonder why he doesn't have a head coaching job. The inconsistency is just glaring right there. So that was really disappointing. But this team just doesn't have an identity on offense, really, at the end of the day, without MT, without Jameis Winston, Trevor Siemian. Until these receivers start getting separation and or catching footballs, Trevor Siemian is not going to be able to get going enough for this team to be anything outside of get Kamara the ball, and teams will quickly catch on to that. Yeah. So I'm obviously disappointed. And obviously the kicker, I think, overall for this game was the lack of kicker. The 2-point conversions, I understand why you do them at the time. But if the Saints had just kicked extra points in those situations after the score was 24-19, they would have just kicked a field goal, or they would have just kicked the extra point. Obviously, they didn't know what was going to happen, but then they scored another touchdown, they kick an extra point. Then it's 27-24, and this game is going to go into overtime, and then who knows what happens after that.
Yeah,
I understand why they go.
Worst case, you're going to OT.
Exactly, worst case. Worst case goes to OT. Best case scenario, you hold them away from being a field goal enough. If Adebo actually, or if Adebo doesn't get beat by Cordero Patterson and there's safety help, then that play doesn't even happen. But 2-point conversions, really the lack of creativity on there was just really disappointing. The Saints have drawn up so much better plays than the 2 that they ran there. Try to do some sort of fade to Troutman, who's not having a good game. Run up the middle with Kamara when he slips. It's like do a toss outside. It's worked a million times before. But, just lack of game planning by Dennis Allen was also a big kicker because, without Calvin Ridley, the Falcons are going to get the ball to Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts, who they kind of held in check for the most part, besides his big 39-yard reception. Quan got beat. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got beat a lot of the game. It just wasn't a good day overall for the defense. They held their own in the fourth quarter, besides that last drive there that set up the field goal. But it was just a really, really, really bad effort there in the third quarter for the defense. And obviously the turnover didn't help, but what a disappointing game. What an even though it was a close loss and we didn't get blown out, we were still down by 18 points in the fourth quarter. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I know everybody's crashing on this defense. I think I kind of look at this as, I think this unit just got gassed at the end of the game, Right. This offense goes, let me pull up the drives here. So, through the first half, right? 7 plays, then a punt, 9 plays, then a punt, 6 plays, then a punt, 3 plays, then a punt. And then they put the 2 field goals to make it 17-6. And then the craziness after that. I just gotta think, I think this unit just got gassed at the end of the game, and I thought Lattimore didn't have a very good game Sunday either. I think I don't want to say he went back to his old ways where he kind of, undermined this Falcons receiving core, and then they had their way across the middle of the field with and then the first play of the game, Kyle Pitts. Shoo! If Matt Ryan puts that ball accurately, Pitts probably scoring, if anything. So, I thought the secondary kind of played down to its competition, and therefore you saw Matt Ryan get, he had his way. He only had, 3 incompletions, I believe, in this game.
Wow.
No,
how many yards did he finish with?
7 incompletions for 343 yards.
Incredible, yeah.
And I think the second
3 tutties?
2 tutties, and then you ran 1 in.
2 tutties, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the other thing is the defensive line, you got to finish, man. You got to finish the sacks. I cannot tell you how much on paper Matt Ryan was able to somehow get out of the pressure, avoid a sack, and then run for positive yards. I just don't get it. So, it was a disappointing loss. I guess some of my quick takeaways are I thought Simeon played well. well enough to continue to start, but we'll see how they like to mix in Taysom Hill because I think the plan would have been to play Taysom, but he was just out with the concussion protocol. So we'll see who the starter is this week against Tennessee. I thought Mark Ingram could still play very good football, and
Yes.
With the lack of receivers and tight ends catching the ball, I think Ingram becomes even more important in this offense as a runner and a pass catcher. Defensively, I mean, sheesh. Paulson and Debo made a rookie mistake, and those happens. I mean, they've kind of happened sometimes early this year. I've been impressed with the Debo's play for the most part, but I mean, it happens. He's learning. But ultimately, he gave up the big play, and we have a kicker. Brian Johnson can't kick.
Yes.
From more than 30 yards out. So we have a kicker. It's a loss that probably should not have happened. But on the bright side, you look at the NFC standings as a whole. I mean, Green Bay lost, Dallas lost, the Rams lost, the Panthers and the Vikings lost. So really, this doesn't change a whole lot except Atlanta is now one game out, and they're right there behind you. But besides that, I mean, the standings will change, so I guess that's good. Despite playing a game as bad as they did, you're still in the mix of the wild card. Maybe the division, who knows? But I'm not betting on that or anything. But
yeah,
I mean, ugly game. They deserve to lose that game, even though for a second looked like we had a shot. But like you said, the 2-point conversion play, I didn't like them. They were not very original whatsoever. And I don't know what Sean was thinking, but yeah, we move on to Tennessee, right? The Titans who have beat the Rams, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Colts twice.
To the Jets.
Yeah, they beat all these stellar teams and they lose to the Jets. And look at us, we beat Tampa, we beat Green Bay.
Lose to the Giants and the Falcons.
Yeah, we lost to the Giants and the Falcons. So it should be a very interesting game. That's Nashville, correct? Yeah,
that is going to be in Nashville. Yes, it is an away game.
So we'll see what happens there.
The extra game. It's the seventh. That was the last. That was the technically 17th game added in for the Saints.
Yep. So it'll be
this game against the Titans.
Let me just really quick. I just want to check Twitter one more time before.
Yeah, I don't think any OBJ news has broke, so we'll see.
This is interesting. It's probably it might be nothing, but at the same time, who knows?
Say it.
Nick Underhill is reporting the Saints are waiving Chase Hansen to clear some cap space.
Okay. What is How much? There's no way Chase Hansen makes more than $3 million. We're gonna give OBJ $4 million.
I can find out. I can find out for you right now.
Chase Hansen.
Let me see. It's gonna come down to this, right?
It's like $850,000. He's making league minimum.
Did you find that out, or are you just saying that?
No, I'm just that would be hilarious if that's the case.
Let me see if I can find out what his salary is.
I mean, the Saints have like 17 linebackers on the team, so it makes sense to cut him.
According to Over the Cap, let me see what they say. It's starting, Dayton. It's starting. They're about to clear up cap room. They're going to go to Tehran and AK and Taysom Hill and say, hey, we're going to move some cap around.
How much does Hansen make?
So Hansen makes $780,000.
Oh my gosh.
So, hey, I mean, hey.
Yay.
We will... We will see. We will see what happens here. I mean, I know it may seem like a move of no significance, but I mean, who knows? Maybe with this, you decide to renegotiate some contracts. This is where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of this.
Yep, this will be interesting. This is going to be, boy, oh boy. We're going to wait and see what happens. So, I think it's going to do it. Later this week, we'll have a Titans preview coming up with myself, Dayton, and the other guys as well. So, super excited about that. Make sure you're following all these great people: Nick Underhill, Kat, Larry, Ross Jackson, Dylan Sanders, who likes to break news here and there, Sigler, Chris, all those great cats over there in St. Louis. They'll keep you guys updated between now and then on this whole Odell Beckham sweepstakes. It's going to be interesting. So that's to take care of things this week, Dayton, unless you have any last words here.
Go Saints. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. Good episode.
Yeah, they're gonna sign Odell.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's to take care of things.
I'm
excited. They're to take care of things this week. And until then, we will talk to you guys soon. This is the Full Press Saints podcast signing off. See you guys next time.